Hey, you want to hear about a time saver that I found? Color Stay lipstick.
Hey, make sure you write that one down, Cannon.
It's a fact. Hey, that is a real.
I only wear that shit on Saturdays.
That's a real time saver. I am not. Look, it doesn't come off a whole lot.
I'm so confused. Enjoy that. Hey, time management tip for women. There you go.
Yes, I'm telling you. And I didn't have to put on my makeup.
My tip is don't wear makeup.
My tip would be put on makeup, Josh.
Cover that shit up.
You could cover that shit up. You know they make makeup, right?
That's what a beard's for. Here's a tip. Don't shave. Fucking, a beard is a man's makeup. I want that as a bumper sticker.
Sometimes
a beard is a man's makeup. I'm Josh Sigman.
And I'm Bryn Rouse.
I'm a mortgage guy with a passion for helping people with their money and all things business. Bryn is my co-host.
And I'm a marketing girl. I am literally obsessed with it. Oh, and Josh has showed me how to save money. Quite a bit, actually.
Because of her obsession, I hired her to do my marketing.
And we've worked together for 10 years.
We launched Sigman Sense in 2020, a podcast about money. It's a podcast that teaches people how to save more, give more, create wealth, and retire early.
And we recorded and published 34 episodes. People liked it, and it was so fun.
But most importantly, we helped people. So we're excited to announce we're doing a second season. And we're mixing things up. We're moving away from money talks to focus on all things business. Leadership, management, team building, book reviews, hiring, firing, operations.
Motivating teams, lead generation, time management, personality profiling, closing skills.
And of course, money.
And marketing.
We are inviting you to continue this journey with us, and we want your input. What topics would you like to see covered? Email all of your ideas to our podcast email address, sigmansense@gmail.com.
And be sure to click that subscribe button when you visit our channels. You'll get notified when we drop new episodes.
Are you ready? Season 2, Getting Down to Business. Welcome to Sigman Sense. Welcome back to the final episode of Season 2.
Oh my gosh.
Which is kind of crazy. What is this, the 30th one of the season?
I think so.
It's like 30.
I'm not good with numbers, but I think so.
Well, that's what I'm for. Or that's what I'm here for, I should say. So Season 2 has been all things business, and I'm really excited because we're going to finish this with a transitional piece because Season 3, drum roll please, will actually be about mindset, which is something that I think that we all need to work on. And it's so interesting when you see people that dream big sooner, they go crazy fast further. When you see people that are always talking about yesteryear and how much their life sucks today, then it for sure does. And, mindset is just one of those most powerful things that we all need to start with. But that's next season, and we got to allude to it because in business, this last topic we're going to talk about is super important for employers, employees, and coworkers alike. And what we need to talk about is burnout, believe it or not.
And but also moms and dads.
And moms and dads too, yeah, at home and at work. You're absolutely, marriage is shit.
Marriage
Not just moms and dads,
people are
burnout that happens in a marriage, right?
Yes.
So the reason why this is important is that this is the ugly underbelly of the real world when it comes to a career path, right? So one thing that I see that I disdain a lot is job hopping, not from a standpoint of, not being at the right company or working for the right employee, but moving on because they're bored. And
from task to task, or let me try a different
Let me say
department.
this a different way. Making permanent decisions emotionally is a bad idea.
That is a bad idea.
Right? And yet, when do people file for divorce? When they're really in a good spot, or they really in the middle of a fight, right? And when do people quit their jobs and stomp out the fucking door?
Every time you piss me off.
Over and over and over again. I've got to resell you every year. So, so my point is that if you start with that concept of never make a permanent decision emotionally, then what you've got to recognize is that management of the down cycles, management of the depressed moments, management of the burnout cycles, which do come in all areas of life, is something that I don't think enough business people pay attention to. And so what we want to talk about today really is, number one, what is it? Number two, what does it look like? Number three, what can you do to prevent it? Number four, how do you recover from it, right? So if we kind of work through that cycle, I think we'll all be better off for it. So how do we start?
Well, I think you start by recognizing it. You know,
Yep.
I mean, it's for me, and I will state this clearly. I don't know that I am like super well suited to give a lot of like factual information about burnout and how to recover from it and all of that and prevent it. But I can certainly share.
As funny as you are, and you just haven't put words to it yet.
Maybe
So I'm
that's what
excited
it
for this.
is.
This will be fun.
For me, so starting with recognition is when I wake up in the morning and I look at my calendar and go, fuck off. Like, I don't want to do any of this today. Like, none of this sounds fun.
Love that.
That's
Okay.
that.
So what does it look like in a down cycle with parenting or with at home?
Okay, what does it look like? So when I feel burnt out,
Burned out in your marriage.
Burned out in my marriage.
Shit, by the way, married. We're both married for a long time now.
Yeah.
Not as long as we can be, but I'm 17 years, and I always say I signed up for another 7-year itch.
Yeah.
About every 7 years, it's gonna be a doozy.
Yeah. I think it goes along the same things. When I look at him, I go, fuck.
Sorry, Randy.
Sorry.
We're being real and sharing
And
pain
then I
over here.
think the same thing would go for my children too. No.
For your children, it's like I can't wait for you to go away.
Like, don't you have a friend to go play with? With my kids, I think it's more of I just don't have the energy to correct or re-guide or just
Have the same conversation at 10 times.
Right. Like, just go and do whatever it is. And we'll just sit here and
I
pray.
can only
that
tell you the
it's-
train's coming. I can't tell you to get all the
right.
tracks
And
enough time.
That's what it feels like to me is like I'm just out of decision making capabilities. So just go.
All right,
do.
so I'm going to add on to this. So for years and years and years, I didn't recognize when I was in a down cycle or in burnout. It would always be when my team would say, what's up? What's wrong? Right? And I wasn't very aware of that statement. But people that hang out with you all the time, your spouse, your kids, your employees, your coworkers, your bosses, if they're asking you what's wrong, don't just shrug it off. Like, that's a fucking sign. Somebody that loves you.
It is such a sign.
Somebody that loves you and says that a couple times, like, I don't know, fucking listen to them.
Yeah.
Because there is something that's off and they're just picking up on it and you might not be aware of it because quite often it's associated with something else which we don't like talking about, but it's just real in this world, is depression, right?
Yeah.
People have, they always say, if it's not good at home, it's not good at work, and vice versa. If it's not good at work, it's probably not going to be good at home for a while too. And so being aware of what's happening in other areas of your life that might be affecting you at work that you don't even know, or affecting an employee at work that they weren't even aware of, starts with just opening your damn ears, and like the radar should go off. The red light should be blinking when somebody says, hey, what's going on?
Yes.
No, what's wrong?
Or are you upset with me? Are you
Right.
upset with me?
That's a big sign too.
Like,
You've done that. Yeah. You've said that to me.
are
in
you?
years past.
And I say that to Randy too. Like, are you upset with me? He's like, no, I don't know. I'm like, here's the thing. If I'm asking you 30 times, maybe there is something that is.
You're acting off.
Yeah,
You're
there's
acting
something off, and it's like triggering me to think that you're mad at me.
Yeah.
So it's worth.
What's
worth
that old? There's an
examining.
old joke that says it's something along. I'm going to totally destroy this one, but it's relevant. It's something along the lines of, if all you talk about is all your crazy relatives,
Right.
and you're saying that
Why
everyone
are
else
we
is
the
crazy.
only normal one?
Yeah, if you think you're the only normal one, maybe you're the crazy one, right?
My brother and I would say that. We're like, why is it every time we sit down with somebody, it's like, oh yeah,
That guy's
it's
crazy.
always this guy's crazy.
That client's crazy.
So
that
who's
that
talking
rate
to us?
refer-
Who's telling?
Right.
Yes.
So the reason I'm saying that is there's got to be some sort of acknowledgement of where you are, like really where you are. I saw a T-shirt on one of my employees on Friday, and it said, "I'm fine, everything's fine." And I think that a lot of us actually go through that set of motions and that convincing of ourselves on a daily basis for far longer than we should, rather than addressing whatever the underlying issue is in our marriage, in our relationships, in our workplace. We just say it's fine, everything's fine, and we try to ignore it.
Because I do think we're taught to just keep going, like just keep pushing
bury
through,
it deep and move on.
bury that shit and keep going and keep, just one thing at a time, keep going, get through it. One thing I think is important is, and I really work on spending time thinking through in the moment, why today do I feel like this, or why did this week suck, or why,
was a
like,
big deal.
why, and sometimes it's stupid shit. Sometimes it's like, I don't want to have to I don't want to have to get ready today. So that tells me I wasn't prepared, or I'm nervous about something. I didn't have content prepared, or I have to do something that I really, probably most of it, now that I'm saying it, these are the words, right? Comes down
You're
to
probably
lack
putting
of
it to it, yeah.
lack of how do you say it?
Preparation.
I was going to say preparedness. Is that not a word?
Preparedness is a word too, but preparation is probably what you're looking
So
for.
lack of preparation.
Yeah.
So then if I have lack of preparation, then why? Well, because I either didn't use my time wisely, or I'm saying yes to too many things.
Or something else at home took away from your ability to do your work, right?
Yeah.
Which happens to a lot of people. Here's the whole idea behind this, and why this is a really important idea, is instead of saying it's fine, everything's fine, why don't we start looking at when you are really engaged at work, when you are not burned out, when you are excited, what does that look and feel like? And isn't that worth pursuing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can literally say to this day, 90 to 92% of my year, I am ready to work. I get up, I pop up, I'm excited.
Yeah.
And I'll tell clients I run to work. I have to be told by my secretary to leave because I work, I enjoy work, I love what I do.
Yeah.
Not every day, but most every single day,
days,
right?
Yeah.
And so if you're going to spend 75% of your waking hours in a job, then let's make sure we love it, and let's make sure we're it's improving, and let's make sure that we're engaged, because just tolerating for 75% of your waking life for the next 30 years,
so sad.
that burnout is not worth it to say it's fine, everything's fine. Now, I'm also a big proponent of don't make a problem when there is none. Because I do find that people are fast to come to conclusions when they're emotional,
right?
And they, it's funny that just the lack of the ability to put words on a feeling of why I feel this way is why it's worth working on all the time. Just to see, when I feel good, why do I feel good? Who do I feel good around? When I feel bad, why do I feel bad? Who do I feel bad around? The activities that I'm engaged in or not engaged in. What did I stop doing? What changed from when I was fucking happy a week ago versus I fucking hate my job today?
That's the other thing too.
The awareness is the key.
Yes. Is this a permanent thing that I'm finding myself waking up feeling like, oh, I don't want to do this? If it's becoming frequent and often, and if you're feeling like that most of the time, that's very different than I'm having an off day or week
or month even,
or month even, right? So yeah, paying attention to those, it's huge. It's huge. Yeah.
So how does this come to be? And there's a couple of things I want to talk about here. And it starts with this belief system that I have about what's called drifting, driven, or directed, the 3 Ds. Roy Mason taught me this about a decade ago. But the idea is that everybody in anything, whether it's in your marriage or in your work life or whatever, are either super driven. What driven looks and feels like is they are goal-oriented, they are excited, they are chasing, they're moving the needle, they are working on things. It's a fun, exciting, and exhausting place to be.
Yes.
But it's the hours that are worthwhile, right?
Yeah.
It's when you're working 60, 70, 80 hours on whatever, or, it's not extra effort. You're excited about doing the acts of service for your newfound love, or, no problem. I'll happily drive across the damn state to pick up my daughter from college because, it's that drive to improve relationships and work on relationships or whatever that looks, or in business, versus drifting. And what drifting is what we're talking about. It's another way to say that you are burnt out, in my opinion. What drifting feels like is no direction, no purpose. It's Groundhog's Day every day. There's no excitement. There's no reward. I feel no value. I get no appreciation. Imagine a raft on a open body of water, just kind of going wherever the wind takes you. That sucks. That feeling sucks. And I would argue that is a horrible feeling in marriage. Like, are we roommates or are we lovers? Right? I mean, that's a real conversation that I think a lot of married people have at some point in their lives. Same thing with any job. Like, was this a stepping stone or is this my career? And that's that. Am I drifting, or like, is this something I want to keep running with?
Yeah.
And then the last step is being directed, and being directed is submitting to authority. What directed feels like to me is I want to please my boss. I want to please my coach. I want to serve others. I want to be a better leader, and I'm told through this book or this podcast that what it takes to be a better leader is to act this way, do these things.
Yeah.
And so, because
I think you have missions, like you have
right.
your missions and the things that you're working on. Like,
Yep.
this is my new initiative. I want to move the needle this way. I want to accomplish this. Like, these
But
are.
you're accountable to something,
Yeah.
someone, and hopefully it's a higher authority, but in a worthy authority. So whether it's your God or whether it is your boss that's worthy of your affection, your coach that is good in the space that you're pursuing, that's a healthy coach in that area, or even just a neighbor that's an excellent example of a marriage, right?
Yeah.
So if you understand like where you could be feeling and how to get, I really believe that the fastest way to get out of that floating, drifting, burnt out feeling is through direction, right? Like,
So, like, stopping and refocus.
well, the second I recognize it, I tell my coach or I tell my suitable, qualified friend, hey, I'm struggling really badly here. This is where I'm at. And then they'll tell me something along the lines of, like, I'll just give you a great example, because every married couple doesn't want to hear what I'm about to say. Okay. And you remember this because I told you this years ago, but I remember that, I've got at the time 3 young kids. They're probably 8 and 5 and 3, if I had to guess. And I'm really busy at work at the time. I'm doing 70 hours a week and feeling unappreciated. My wife is really busy at home, and guess what? Feeling unappreciated.
Yeah.
And we've had a couple of spats at this time, and I feel like I've put in more effort than she has, and she probably feels like she's put in more effort than I have, and I'm really mad. And so I call up my coach and friend and say, hey, man, this is where I'm at. And my coach and mentor said, okay, well, whoever's most qualified to fix it has to fix it. And so I'm assigning you 30 days random acts of kindness. And I'm like, I don't want to go home, let alone do 30 days random acts of kindness right now. And so, but because I'm directed, I started doing random acts of kindness. Like, fuck it, man. My boss told me to do this. My authority in this area, my coach, my mentor told me to do this. And so this is my pastor at the time. He tells me this is what you got to do. And so I went home. I remember I did 30 days random act of kindness, and I got really mad around day 15 probably. And the reason why, Cannon, is because she didn't fucking notice. So I was doing all these things, right? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just a little curious. Were they things that she found like nice? Were you catering to her love language, or are you thinking?
It was acts of service. She's an acts of service person. So you would think so. But here's my point.
Well, you missed the mark somewhere.
Well, maybe. Here's the really interesting thing. So I knew she didn't notice because she literally told me, like after 30 days, of course, I wanted to, this is a complete waste of the last 30 days. So I decided to poke the bear by saying, did you know that I did this and this and this and this? Because I'm keeping score, right? I did all these things for you, and you didn't even notice, right? Guys, pay attention. This is a really bad idea, okay? So I go back to my coach and mentor and my pastor, and I'm like, dude, your shit doesn't work. I did it. I saw it through the end. Here's the 30 things I did.
Do you have a second?
And she said, well, what do you mean it didn't work? And I said, well, shit. She didn't even notice, and she didn't. And he's like, well, it sounds like you were expecting something in return. So
yeah, I want everybody nice to me.
A random act of kindness has no expectations. It's random. It's an act of kindness. It's not for something in return. You have to go back and do it again. I was like, fuck!
With no expectations.
Right, with no expectations. So I went back and I did another 30 days, and damned if, with no expectations, things turned around and got really good. And by the way, this is not me at all diminishing my marriage, by the way. Like, this is just a real thing, an example of. It's an example of, we were at a crucible in a rough spot, and instead of just making a permanent decision emotionally, I sought direction,
which is good.
and for me, that's what moved the needle. In business, it's the same thing.
And the
right?
other thing I really want to point out is that you said the person who is most capable to fix it has to fix it.
Whether it's fair or not.
Whether it's fair or not. And guess what? If you're listening to this podcast, it's probably you. Just so you know.
Yep. Because you are seeking information and knowledge,
Yes.
and usually opposites attract. So it's probably you that
probably
has to fix it.
you. So just, you have to take that as an honor and get your ass in there.
Get in the fight.
Get in
it's
the fight
worth it. It's worth
and fix it.
It's worth, because remember what I said is the other side is worth it, right? Like, why tolerate it? Tolerate whatever at work or at home and be mediocre. Like, pursue excellence.
Yeah.
That's worth it. So let's give an example of work, because this is for business, obviously. But I think that really made the point. In business, an example would be, let's use sales. Sales is such an easy target.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. I call, I'm a new salesperson. I've now called 100 people to set appointments, and it just doesn't work. Then people aren't meeting with me. I'm a new salesperson. I call 100 people, like you said. I did set 10 appointments, but none of them are using me. I had 10 appointments. I sent over 30 leads, but all of the leads suck, right? Like, these are all
real things,
real conversations that happen. And for sure, it can be deflating. It can be defeating, and it can put us in that burned out mindset. But also, the flip side's real too. And I cannot tell you how many of my own students bitch and moan about how busy they are. About, oh my God, I've got so many clients. Oh my God, I'm so busy. Oh my God. And it's like, I'm scratching my head, especially during COVID. Like, in my industry, real estate and lending and title.
Right.
If you were to pick an industry to be in,
holy moly,
of all industries and a state, I'm in South Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And shitloads of people are moving to South Texas.
Yeah.
You couldn't pick a better state. And I was half-staffed going into it. So our work hours were insane, and we doubled our business, right? And instead of the mindset that I heard so many people say of, I have to do this, I have to stay late. It's like, no, you get to. There's people that lost their job. There's people that can't go to work, that aren't allowed to, that are sick, that are dying. There's people that got fired, that their company took the check from the government, and they still waited and let everyone go and just walk with the money.
And look at how much. Look at our new stamina. Like, our new stamina is here.
Yep.
Right. Like, as and I mean that seriously, not in a negative way. Like, look, now we can all work 80 hours a week and not feel it.
Yep.
That's not what I mean. We've learned how to operate more efficiently,
more effectively, in less time.
Absolutely. Like, we have a higher stamina for what needs to be done during the day.
Yep.
And that's a gift. That is a true gift.
And that's the thing, is that it starts with the recognition. And once you recognize it, it goes back to those conversations where they were bitching because they didn't have enough, or they're bitching because they had too much. The correction comes back to, in both on one side, on the too much side, it's the gratitude of, thank God you have too much. Now you can be more selective, and you can choose what business you want and what you don't. And on the flip side, people that aren't doing enough, it gives the direction of, well, I promise you the activity is not the issue. What you're saying is the issue. If you're really having 100 conversations, meeting with 10 people, and no one's referring you, it's the conversation. So say this way. Record me when I do this presentation. Copy me. Come watch me. Listen to how I do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but the direction is the fastest way to get out of that burnout kind of phase.
One thing that works for me personally, and this is personal and professional, is to have kind of a punch list of what excellence in a week or a day looks like.
Oh, I love that. That comes from a book.
Does it?
Yeah, well, it came out of, we talked about this in season 1, actually, about, what are those 2 books? Chop Wood, Carry Water, and Pound the Stone. Keep going. You're on.
So, I'll talk personal first. My fastest way to burn out is not enough time or feeling like a shitty mom. Like that's it for me. So I've come up with a little punch list of when I am able to eat dinner with them, when I am able to snuggle and watch a movie with them, when I'm able to laugh with them, when I'm able to read to them, when I'm able to have a meaningful conversation with KK or whatever, just basic stuff. When I am able to do those things, then I feel good, and the burnout doesn't occur. And so the same thing for Randy, and then the same thing at work. When I am able to, hit my power hours every day when I'm supposed to, when I'm able to execute my calendar, when I don't have to move stuff around, when I can start and finish at the right time.
I love that.
Those are wins, and it's an easy snapshot and a easy way to congratulate, celebrate throughout, and that kind of just takes
What you're
the
doing
edge
is you're
off.
stacking the wins on your side. Everyone is so fast, especially achievers. They're so fast to judge themselves on what they didn't get done,
Right.
or the client they didn't help, or the referring party that they lost. They're not focused on what is working.
But
what
look at what you're doing. And it's like, I know for people that are just listening, like you can't necessarily see this, but like these are lists and lists of things that have to get done. Most of them are checked off. So celebrating more that is done versus flipping shit, which I do, over the things that haven't been done.
So to me, and this goes back to some tactics around how to get out of burnout, the feel, because it's just a feeling, it's emotion. It's not necessarily real. It doesn't diminish that it's a real feeling, but it's not a real thing, right? What I focus on and what I always coach tactically on is, if you're really, really busy, then just make sure you get the most important thing done every day.
So
that goes back to skill set development, like priority pairing. It goes back to time management. It goes back to following your calendar. It goes back to book ending your day so that you create your to-do list when you show up. You refresh your to-do list before you go home so you can leave work at work, so you can be present at home and that you don't have to wake up in the middle of the night and think about, oh shit, I didn't get this done. I forgot. When you get back to the office, if there's anything else that changes, add that to your list, but organize it based on not what you want to do, but what's the important thing to be done today. Because if you have a list of 10 things to get done today, they're not going to get done. Most of them probably will. But number 1, 2, and 3 for sure is shit better.
Absolutely.
And if you do at least those things as an employee or a boss, at least the most important things, you're moving the needle, and that feeling is that we're progressing.
Right.
Where I find that burnout comes from is the feeling of treading water.
Yeah.
Like my list doesn't ever get shorter. I've got 25 things to do today. I've got 25 things to do tomorrow. I got 25 things to do the next day. And you're not feeling accomplished. Why? Because you're just doing whatever's next on the list, not what's most important on the list. That's why there's no feeling of progression. Same thing with a marriage, right? When you're treading water and it's like Groundhog's Day, and what's so crazy, and I want you guys to think about this, because I find that just the idea that new is fun. It is, in your mind, new is fun. Boring isn't fun, but boring is better in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to a marriage, right? The devil you know versus the devil you don't is a real thing. And that feeling within a marriage where it goes kind of stale is just because it's the same day, every day, week in and week out with the same person. And that's where that feeling of burnout can come from, which is why we have to do things to spice it up, right?
Yeah.
Like, are you doing a date night? Are you traveling together? Like, those are simple tactical things to do. Are you creating some space for 30 minutes to just communicate on a daily basis, even though you've got 3 kids or 8 kids?
Or working on a project together.
Right. If you're are you working like what? Yeah, exactly. Are you working a home project that you guys can both get elbows deep in?
Yeah.
All those things are ways to stay out of and prevent burnout, but recognizing that if you're in that feeling, it's not the end of the world. It's just, this is the why, and there's real tactical ways to get out of it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Starting with experts, creating bullet points, checklists, following the priorities first, making sure the most important things get done first. Those are all easy things to do.
And I think being kind to yourself is huge too.
Right.
I think, like you say, as achievers, we beat the crap out of ourselves most of the time.
Yep.
And so, allowing yourself a little bit of grace never hurts. So.
Yep. And we need to go ahead and explain. So I think let's go back to the employer side of things, because there's a real cost to burnout, like an actual cost to burnout. And so I want to plead this case and kind of get people thinking, because there's generational differences in this area. If you go back 50 years, the employer was in control. The employer, there were fewer jobs than there were potential employees, and so the employer mentality was almost, if you talk to your grandparents, like, you're lucky to have the fucking job. You know, I don't care that it's 6 o'clock. Keep working till 9 o'clock until your fingers are bleeding, and you're lucky to have it, because if you want to walk out, no problem. There's somebody else at the gate waiting to come into the factory, right? If you go to kind of my generation, you know, 40s, 30s, 40s, kind of that kind of work group, that's kind of where the tides started to change, because now if you go to the new work group of 20s, late teens, 20s, early 30s, there are for sure, especially right now after COVID, more jobs than there are qualified people for the jobs. So the employer is the lucky one if they get you, but that ultimately the employee has the choice. And so where does this whole fall into the there's a great book we read years ago called Engaged Leadership, and it talks about this concept of that mathematically and dollar wise, how does a engaged employee impact a business? How does an actively engaged employee impact the business? How does a disengaged employee impact the business? How does an actively disengaged employee impact the business?
Gosh, that was a long time ago.
And I would argue that a disengaged or actively disengaged employee is just some variance of burnout most of the time at this day and age, because an employee doesn't tolerate a bullshit asshole boss anymore because they have options. They'll just leave, right? So what does that look like mathematically? And if I have to go back and read the books, but I'm going to be very close on these numbers. A actively engaged employee is somebody that, if you think of whatever the salary is, they bring way more value than that. So if somebody's getting a $50,000 salary to work at a company, an actively engaged employee might literally bring you 1.5 to 2 times the value of what you're paying for that actual employee. They are happy. They're excited. They make you look good with your clientele. They attract other employees. All great things for an employer to have, right? An engaged employee is basically a dollar for dollar employee. So they show up, they do what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it. They know what they're supposed to do. They know what the piece of the puzzle is that they serve. And dollar for dollar, that same $50,000 employees bring $50,000 of value. They're there for the purpose, and they understand the mission, and they're doing the mission well, right? They're not making you look bad. I would argue that they don't always make you look good either, but they're doing the job well, right? A disengaged employee, think it in terms of, if you're paying them $50,000, they're bringing you $25,000 of value. So you're getting 50 cents on the dollar. So imagine that you're paying somebody 52 weeks a year, 40 hours a week, whether they do a good job, bad job, or otherwise, you're still paying them the same amount of money. They're not even paying for themselves, right? But this day and age, holy shit, I can't afford to lose them. So I'll just keep them on board, because it's better for me to lose $25,000 a year than it is to not have the employee at all. Is a crazy thing that happens by allowing or not noticing or not helping when somebody is in burnout, right? This is why leaders need to pay attention to the signs of depression. Ask questions about how are things at home. Care enough to spend 15 minutes or 30 minutes a week touching base, checking in. How are you doing? So that they can feel when something's off, because the employee themselves might be a marvelous person who doesn't even know that they're burnt out. Like we said earlier. But if you're not able to say, hey, what's going on with you? And by the way, this is really a big issue that I think is going to become bigger as more and more companies stay home full time, right? We've had this argument within our company. I allow my team to do a flex schedule. So a couple days at work, a couple days at home. Why is it important to me that our employees are in the office? Because I want this piece. I want that. I want to look people in the eyeballs. I want to feel the energy or lack thereof. Because I understand the cost to relationships and the cost to business of not noticing, right?
For sure.
So that disengaged employee costs you basically 50 cents on the dollar. A actively disengaged employee. So imagine this. You give them a raise and they bitch about the taxes they're going to pay on it. Like if you give them a bonus, they're like, You gave me $500. Why have you got to pay $200 in taxes? It's like, fuck, then I won't give you the bonus, right?
Right.
They're actively recruiting people away from your company.
Yeah.
They're so disenfranchised that they've bitched to all their neighbors. They're disruptive. When they find the next job, they're going to take somebody with them. They're very, very expensive, very costly to allow an employee to be an actively disengaged employee. And so not recognizing or dealing with it. By the way, they estimate it's at 2 to 1. So if you are paying them $50,000, it's costing you $100 to keep that person employed.
That's insane.
And so it's a crazy number. And when you think percentages wise, it's a very low percentage on both sides. The actively engaged is like 15%. The actively disengaged is like 30. The engaged employee is like 30%, and the small difference is the disengaged. This is where a different way to point out what burnout turns into and what the cost of not working on this area is. It has a huge positive or negative impact on your business, right? Yeah. So I think it's just worth understanding hey, dude, I know that you're from a older generation and that you're supposed to not talk about feelings, but get the fuck over it. It'll cost you a lot more than just sharing a little bit of pain with your own life and getting a little dirty in relationships. Right?
Yeah. And a lot of times people will say, well, just go take a vacation and, that's the cure. And for me, it's like, I don't want to go on a vacation. I want it to be better. This feeling is going to be here when I get back. So I want it to be better. So what are the things that I need to do to change my patterns, my schedule, what adjustments need to be made? Because this feeling is being caused from something, and it's not just from like I need to. Because let's be honest, a lot of times vacations, I am not any more well rested when I come back from vacation.
Well, that's because you're parting balls.
Exactly.
Yep. Well, here's an interesting thing that I picked up just by slowing down and listening to my team over the years. Is I didn't know about this concept. It's called the Sundays. It's the Sundays.
The Sunday Scaries.
The Sunday Scaries. I did not know it's a real thing. You can
oh my
Google
gosh!
Shit. It's a real thing, right?
Oh my gosh! I have the best article
too
about the Sunday Scaries.
If you're not familiar with that term, somebody that's burnt out is literally waking up on Sunday and does not enjoy Sunday
because all
they're thinking about is Monday.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a warning sign. So I had a couple of my teammates talk about this in 2020. Okay. So again, going back to earlier part of this conversation, in 2020, we were working twice as many hours, understaffed, and doubled our business. Mm-hmm. It's not sustainable. So yes, we hired out of it. Yes, we trained out of it. We're not there now. But it's because I learned this concept of Sunday Scaries, and I was listening to my team. I was like, you really, like, that's not good. Like, if you're afraid to come to work, eventually you're going to quit, right?
Right. So, and we get 2 days off. We have Saturday and Sunday, and we spend all of Sunday worried about it. And Sunday Scaries is not a, like, I'm dreading it. I mean, I guess it is in a way, but Sunday Scaries is anxiety that starts to set in over the impending amount of responsibility that's like looming around the corner, like getting the kids up and making sure they're fed and dressed and out the door, and then I got to get myself dressed, and then I've got my work. It's just that anxiety of like, here it comes. And for me, that again, I keep saying it, there's fundamental changes that must be made within your day, within your life, at home, more than likely. It needs to start at home more than likely, whether it's outsourcing, delegating, saying no, having a conversation with a spouse about, hey, I need more help here, or we need to divide responsibilities, whatever. And then looking at your work schedule and figuring out, like, why am I fucked all day long every day? Like, well,
I'll tell you what, it's the if you have a spouse that's in that weird, crazy mindset, if you have an employee that has the Sunday Scaries and you do nothing, like, it's not going to get better. That's what I've found. So you have to recognize that depression, or recognize that anxiety, or recognize the burnout. And so literally coming out of 2020, my number one goal for my team was what? What was the number one goal that, as a result of the Sunday Scaries, do you remember what the focal point of 2021 was?
Oh, yeah.
What
everybody 40 hours a week.
Oh, wow. And I didn't have to word that or mouth that. The goal was to get my team down to 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
Because I would rather do less business with a happy team that stays with me forever than grow at the cost of my relationships, right? And that literally became our mantra. I never, as a D person, of course I'll pay for your work. Like, that's not a question for me. If people want to work overtime, do it. If I work overtime, I'm a manager, so I don't get overtime. It just it doesn't equate to me, right?
Right.
But when I think about it for other people and I recognize, like, holy shit, that's a real thing, then our business goal became get everyone down to 40 hours a week. We'll do less business, or we're going to hire out of it, one of the two or both, or train out of it too. And that's what we've done. So we've, hired another half dozen people to the team and trained it incessantly and increased our training opportunities within the organization. And it's simply because I recognize the cost of burnout as an employer, and the cost of inaction is tremendous, right?
It is.
So that's the plead for people to pay attention. By the way, what do you think the burnout cost to a marriage is?
What is the cost?
Yeah.
Divorce?
Eventually.
Like,
Not handling
it's
it.
a trick question.
Nope. or cheating.
Or cheating.
Or cheating, because fun is fun,
that
right?
could be a part of delegation.
Right. Oh, Jesus. You are not allowed to give advice ever. But I mean, it's the truth, guys. Like, not handling your business at home.
Yeah, it's not going away.
It's not going to get better.
It's not getting better. It's not
so you
getting
have
better.
to spend the time, energy, and effort to get out of it.
100%.
So, this all kind of is a prelude to mindset for all of next year. But I will say some things that I do preventatively right now as kind of a teaser, right? I do believe in daily affirmations. People might think I'm weird. I absolutely know it works. I've been saying for years, I love my job, I love my job, I love my job. I'm just going to have fun today.
Yeah.
Because my coach told me to put something down on a piece of paper 12 years ago when I was burnt out, when I was working 8 hours a week and not getting the results I was hoping for. And so I still to this day say it every single day. And damned if I already told you 92% of the time, like, I love my fucking job. I'm having fun. Like, why wouldn't I run to work? Like, I am really excited about work, right? That is something that's super important to me. Number two is recovery rate matters. So if I recognize, because Bryn was kind of say, hey, dude, like, are you mad at me? Or a teammate says, hey, are you off? I don't just take it for granted that somebody that gives a shit says that to me.
Right.
So I assume that they're right. And so I make a mental switch of, oh, there's something off. I got to pay attention. Got to get in my routine. I got to, like, what did I stop doing? Is there something that I'm not in tune with? I'll give you some examples. My brother and I, for a couple of years, like, literally didn't talk, and he's one of my best friends in the world. And I didn't realize at the time how much that was impacting me. There was a period of time where I absolutely drank too much and every day. And I didn't realize, I was a young man. I'm still a younger man, but I'm, in my 40s now. But as a young man, like, that's not a abnormal activity. Oh, except it is if you're a working guy, right? So I didn't realize how much that was. So I had to start, a month at a time, not drinking for a month at a time, just to make sure that I was, like, cleaning myself up and getting better habits, right?
Yeah.
I gained my 40 pounds like everyone does that has a desk job. And I finally had to go back and, okay, this is something that's affecting my mindset. So I had to get a personal trainer just to keep me doing the basics all the time. I got away from spirituality altogether. So I had to engage in a Bible study because it keeps me more on track. It keeps me more on the grateful side of things than the bitching side of things. I defriended, not literally through Facebook because I don't do that shit, but I stopped hanging out with a few people that were negative influences or always speaking in past tense from my life. I started focusing on relationships and spending more time with people that were focused on what's next and what we're going to do and how excited they are about the future, right?
Yeah.
Because when I hang out with people like that, I'm pretty damn excited.
Pretty excited.
I started planning more trips with friends and with my spouse. There were a couple of years that I didn't go on a trip with my spouse by ourselves.
Yeah.
So we had 3 young kids. I was talking to my dad, loved him to death, married for 34 years, made a really bad mistake, got divorced after 34 years. Things worked out the way they were supposed to. I get that. My dad's now happily married with somebody else. Kathy's a wonderful lady. That being said, if you have an honest conversation with my dad, he gave me the advice of, and I didn't realize this, but when I look back at my life, it's the truth. The entire 18 years that I was home, all 18 years, my mom and dad always traveled with me and my brother with them. They never traveled without us.
Yeah.
Some people might disagree with that. My dad literally says, there was no relationship between my mom and I. Our relationship was you.
Was you.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, shit,
Which is
Dad.
a little scary.
Well, fuck, 34
They're
years.
leaving.
Yeah.
They're going to leave.
Right. So, shit.
I don't want to reintroduce myself.
Dad's one of my mentors. So guess what?
Yeah.
I'm starting to force trips, even though my wife, Christy, is a wonderful mother and does way more than most mothers do. Like, I don't care if we got shit to do that week. We are going on a trip together. Like, this is what we have to. We're doing date night tomorrow. Why?
Yeah.
Because I know this is better for us, right?
It's better, yeah.
So all those things, let's go on the business side of things as well. Forced conversations regularly with your boss or your employees.
Yes.
Like, one thing that really helped me recognize burnout for my team and get me better in tune with my boss is a regular scheduled lunch. Wednesdays I have lunch with a teammate, period, end of story. I have a recurring bi-weekly lunch with my boss, Dan. Like, just that forced interaction to make sure we don't go too long of a time, failing to communicate, failing to purge the devil in some cases, right?
Yeah, no, for
like,
sure.
Hey, I've got one way to bitch. I can only bitch up. If I'm going to bitch and bitch to Dan, I can't bitch to my employees. Like, so Dan, you're going to catch some shit every once in a while. But all that is intentional to prevent irritation, burned out, drifting, nasty feelings, right?
And that is literally what season 3 of Sigman Sense is going to be about, which is really cool. So we're going to dice the heck out of it.
I can't believe that we've already finished season 2.
I know. So super exciting stuff in season 3. You kind of know what it's going to be about, but mindset and a lot more, but with a new studio and all sorts of fabulousness. So I am pumped. I am super pumped about it.
Thank you for listening, and thank you for sharing this podcast with your friends.
Yes.
For those guys that send in emails and texts and check in and let us know how we're doing, we really appreciate the feedback.
I do.
And I guess until next time, we'll see you on Sigman Sense. Talk to you guys later.
Cheers.